Good evening and welcome. So you caught me just having a last minute drink of water. And welcome to this evening's webinar. I'm just going to talk for a little bit just as people join us in the room, and I'll take us through the technology to make sure people know how this all works. So maybe they haven't done one of these before. I should talk you through some of the housekeeping. And just to get things going, to make sure people can hear me, you should find a chat box on your right. That's where you can ask questions at any point during this evening. And if you could just say hi or something in there, the chat is private, only I can see it. It'd be great if someone could, or anyone who can hear this, just say hi and make sure you can hear me okay and the technology is working. So if you can see the chat box to your right, and just say hi, and that's where you can ask questions at any point this evening. So I'm just going to, before I launch into the main content, just going to make sure everyone can hear and it's all working okay. There is a bit of a delay between me speaking and you getting it, the signal, as it were, to make sure that's purposeful for this equipment, this webinar tool, to make sure you get a good stream, a good constant signal rather than any delays or kind of freezing and stuff like that. So excellent, people can hear me. That's all great. So just give it a few more minutes to make sure everyone's kind of has joined. So thank you for those that are here. Thank you those who found the chat box. If you haven't found the chat box, it should be to your right. That's where you can put questions at any point. And if you can say hi, just to make sure it's all working. So messages are coming through. That's great. So this evening I titled it kind of fertility from a male and female perspective. And it's an opportunity for just explore some aspects of infertility or the fertility journey that don't get talked too much. And it's mainly mentioning this. The reason I kind of focus on the kind of male aspects of the journey, because I think it's less spoken about. You go into support forums, there's a lot of chat between women sharing their experiences, having kind of emotional support. And there's not so there's some kind of support forums for men, which is great. There's a really active Facebook group for men. But I want to talk about more my own experience, kind of the journey from the male perspective. And it may prompt a conversation, it may prompt questions, it may prompt all sorts of things. And hopefully my aim is to get a better maybe understanding what's happening in your man, whether he's verbalized it or not, because I know I didn't verbalize it on our journey. And that's one of the things I kind of learned, which I kind of share. And sometimes I see comments in support forums about women about their partners. And I think sometimes there's a kind of little misunderstanding of what maybe the man is going through, and what they're reading is the signals, what they see, the behavior, what they see, and maybe not really understanding what's underneath that. And quite rightly so, because often men don't share that kind of stuff. It makes it really hard for women to understand what's going on in their head. So I thought maybe just to kind of just sharing some of the things I felt or experienced on my journey, and some of the difference between kind of men and women and how they play out in this kind of experience. And it's an opportunity to ask any questions about anything about the mind and the body. And this webinar is being brought to you in conjunction with Fertility Network UK. I'm providing this webinar on behalf of them. And those who don't know about Fertility Network UK, they're a fertility support charity in the UK, providing amazing support in so many ways for couples experiencing infertility. And also they've got a stream called More to Life for those who are kind of given up on the journey or decided to end the journey for whatever reason, and coming to terms with kind of childlessness kind of longer term. They have an amazing website full of resources. They have support forums. They have a nurse kind of a helpline, and they have support groups up and down the country. So a whole range of support for individuals and couples going through the fertility journey. And also in the UK, they fight and campaign a lot to raise the awareness of infertility within the UK, and also fighting a lot for fairness around funding for fertility treatment. Those of us in the UK know it can be a bit of called a postcode lottery, whether you do get any funding or how much funding you get. So, like in the States, you have Resolve. It's almost, I guess, it's the closest thing in the UK to Resolve. So I'm doing this on behalf of them because I just think they're doing amazing work, and I want to give back to a community that we were part of for so long. Sadly, I wasn't aware of them on our journey, and I really, really wish we were. So that's a bit of background at Fertility Network UK. Google them if you haven't heard about what they're doing. And there'd be some great support maybe you can tap into anywhere in the world. A lot of stuff is accessible anywhere in the world. So it actually had to be in the UK. So just before I launch in, I'll give a bit of background to my story. Some people may know, some people won't. So just briefly give a recap, just some scene setting from where I'm coming from. So my wife and I had a 10-year journey of infertility. Firstly, my wife had some fertility struggles. And over a number of years, almost 8 years, she went on a journey to try and look after her health in a more holistic, healthy way. She was fed up with taking stronger and stronger medication, and felt she wasn't getting much support from, I guess, the traditional kind of medical routes. So we found a gynecologist who also practices Chinese medicine, is also a sonographer, so he can give a complete care for women's health. And he helped her basically come off her medication and treat her condition more naturally. But actually, he believed maybe she was misdiagnosed because he got her to have a full natural cycle again. And after 8 years, and for the first time in her life, and the first time being married, having a children was a real possibility for us. Up to that point, we always said, "Oh no, we're okay with it. We're okay with it." Children played a heavily role in our lives through godchildren. We did youth work and children's work. And we always thought that we can foster or adopt. There's plenty of children that need love. It doesn't have to be one of our own. But it wasn't until it became a possibility we could have our own, then we realized how much we desperately wanted our own. And we realized we had a kind of a protection mechanism. We kept saying we're okay with it, just, I guess, as a way of not really feeling the pain of it and not really going on the journey emotionally. And we tried for about a year and nothing was happening. Probably less than a year, because at that point, as you know, you become experts on this journey. You kind of know how the plumbing and things of fertility work and what should work and how long to expect, etc., etc. And we kind of guessed maybe there's something else was up after trying for maybe 6 or 9 months. And then I had my first fertility test, and it was disastrous, across the board, disastrous. I went on a journey for 4 months trying to improve my fertility, doing all sorts of things I firmly believe can make a difference. Didn't make any difference. In fact, it got slightly worse. At that point, I gave up, thinking, okay, there's nothing I can do. We're in the hands of the clinic, and they were looking at maybe ICSI as an option for us. And lo and behold, my wife got pregnant actually just before we started ICSI. And I can see how much I went on an emotional journey in that period. And we both kind of found this place of peace without giving up. We let go of limiting beliefs about ourselves and life, and really having children shifted from being a need, as in I'll be happy when we have children, to just not just desire, a very strong desire. But for the first time, we felt that we could be happy with or without children. We wanted to continue the journey, but it took all the pressure off that whole process. And I'm not going to dive into that whole psychological aspects of the journey, the mind-body link, and everything else. That's probably a topic for another webinar. That's what I do with my clients. I remove psychological blocks to getting pregnant, whether naturally or treatment. Today, I want to focus on more of the kind of the interplay between men and women on the journey, particularly maybe in a relationship. And also, we've seen fertility from female aspects and male aspects. I've been a man supporting my wife in it. I've been a man experiencing male fertility. So we've kind of seen it through various forms, including secondary fertility. So kind of beat around the block a little bit. And I want to dive into, that whole how men and women often experience have different experiences on this journey. I'm talking men and women. I know it's a stereotype. These differences can play out in a same-sex relationship. It's not about men and women kind of from a kind of a gender point of view. It's more masculine and feminine energy. And men tend to have more masculine energy. Women often have more feminine energy. We all have masculine energy within us. So it's more of a masculine and feminine thing, which may not be a male and female thing. But I'm going to use man and woman just for convenience and the purposes of this webinar. So what might your man and might be experiencing? The reason I wanted to do this webinar is 8 years into our journey, when things we realized something else must be up, and I got my test result, and it looked like all hope was lost. That was kind of the lowest point in many ways. And my wife turned around to me at one point and said she felt very lonely on the journey because she didn't feel that, she had no idea what was going on in my head. And I felt I was hands-on on the journey. I went to all the appointments, we talked about things, we made decisions together, but actually what she said was that she felt lonely on the journey. She had no idea how I was feeling about it, what was going on in my head. And to be fair, it wasn't just fertility. She made similar comments in life generally before that, and I basically maybe didn't take it seriously, or maybe it's just a phase, or maybe it wasn't such an issue. But then our fertility journey, it really kind of came to a head almost, and it really highlighted the fact that it was like a mystery to her in many ways. Sometimes she just wanted an argument. She wanted to just really know how I felt. She said, at least when we have an argument, you've got something to work with. But I was so in my head, she had no idea, and almost gave her nothing to work with. So I thought, having reflected on all that and done a lot of my own kind of personal journey, and can see where I was at and what was going on more clearly, I thought maybe it'd be helpful to share to maybe some women out there who aren't sure what maybe men might be experiencing. And I shared some of this in some support forums. It seemed to be helpful. And maybe you're a man and you can relate to some of this. And if the men out there, this is to maybe help you realize you're not alone in the way you feel about this. Maybe you're not bad or wrong for the way you're feeling. So maybe it gives encouragement to support that actually maybe it's quite normal in what you're experiencing. And those who kind of tuned into the last webinar, I guess in retrospect, this may be the precursor to that. Maybe I wish I'd done this one first, because that one was about diving into kind of, what can you do about these differences? And I'll come back to that at the end and maybe recommend, I'll basically send the link to that one in the replay video email for this one. So if you think your man might be a mystery of what's going on psychologically or emotionally for him on this journey, or in life generally, to be honest, or maybe you're a man experiencing this, maybe you can relate to some of these experiences that I felt on our journey. The first one that men may be experiencing is responsible. Your man might be feeling responsible in some way. And what I mean by that is, if it's male factor fertility involved, and 50% of infertility cases do involve male factor fertility, they may feel responsible for being the problem, as it were. I know that was, the case for me, having gone on such a long journey, particularly, and got to where we got to and thought, that's it. We've done this marathon, we've done this journey, and there's no reason why we couldn't get pregnant. We thought that was it. And then the real kind of desire, the strong desire to have children came to the fore. We were really honest for the first time. That's want nothing more than to have children. And my wife, look at her, she's just born to be a mother. And then suddenly it wasn't happening because of my plumbing, because of my stuff. And I felt responsible for her not getting the one thing she wanted most in the world. I felt it was my kind of fault in a way, not like I could have maybe prevented it, but I was the kind of problem. And that also led to maybe sounds quite strong, but maybe it's like fear, a fear of losing her, a fear of her getting to the stage where actually the desire to have children is stronger than desire to be with me. And she would say that would never be the case. But these thoughts went through me. They probably go through other men as well. And they often go through women, as I know that women have that kind of same kind of fear if they feel they're responsible for the fact they can't have children. So men have those kind of fears as well, fear of losing their partner, if they feel they're kind of responsible. And feeling responsible, not just if you've got male factor fertility, feeling it's your fault in some way, or you're the problem. I don't know, women can feel the same thing. But also, I felt responsible emotionally. I felt responsible for being the strong one for my wife. I guess I felt responsible for trying to support her in any way I can. And of course, that's great to support your partner in that way. But I think I felt responsible, which is, I think, can be unhealthy in many ways, because in doing so, I didn't want to burden her. I didn't want to share my stuff not particularly aware of my stuff, which I'll come on to, but I didn't want to share my stuff because I felt maybe it would burden her. That I wanted to make the journey as easy as possible for her emotionally and in any way possible. But in doing so, I was doing the opposite. In doing so, I wasn't sharing my stuff, and she felt like the problem one. She felt she had the emotional stuff, and she was the problem one. Had for having those kind of feelings, for maybe needing emotional support. But also, it meant she felt kind of lonely because she didn't understand what's going on within me. She had no idea what was going on in my head, and that made us feel distant. I wasn't aware of it, but it was creating a void between us. Women want to connect emotionally. They want to know how men feel. They want to know how other women feel. They want to know they want to feel understood. And I was just kind of holding back because I didn't want to burden her. I thought that if I share my stuff, that's just going to burden her. So I felt responsible to try and be the positive one, to be the hopeful one, to be positive when she wasn't. I guess, and try and be a rock for her. And there's nothing wrong with supporting a partner, but I did feel that that was the helpful thing over and above sharing my stuff, sharing how I was feeling, sharing my inadequacies, sharing the feeling of feeling responsible, sharing my fears. So I'll come on to some of the reasons why I do that now. Some of the reasons why maybe I didn't share my stuff. Because another thing your man might be feeling is pretty much nothing. I met a man once who said, "I don't have feelings," and he was pretty genuine. He really believed he didn't really have emotions. That's not kind of true. We all have emotions, whether we're aware of them or not. The World Cup is on at the moment, and I know those in the States. Unfortunately, the USA didn't get to the finals. But if you watch a football match, and you see the men watching a match, they can go through a whole range of emotions. A whole range of emotions you might experience on a fertility journey: hope, joy, then suddenly disappointment, and fear, or anger, injustice, decisions from the ref, frustration, sadness, kind of grief, the hopes are dashed. Also, a whole range of emotions that men can experience quite openly in the stands at a football match. So it's not true that men don't feel emotions. But I know I had quite a distant relationship with my emotions. I felt the emotions, to be honest, were a bad thing. It led to conflict. In the past, in my childhood, there was a lot of emotion, a lot of conflict. And I guess I retreated. Into my head as a protection mechanism, because you can't think and feel at the same time. So if you've got a lot of busy mind going on, it stops you feeling something. And I guess for me, that personally, it was a way of not feeling the pain and the grief and resentment, all sorts of feelings that from childhood through life. But it meant I kind of flatlined through life. I had a very narrow band of emotions because I was scared or avoiding the kind of negative feelings of life. In doing so, in trying to control my state, I was preventing myself from feeling the positive emotions in life. So I kind of flatlined through life, which I thought was quite a useful strategy, but actually, in my experience, it's not. The emotions don't go away. They can be destructive psychologically and also physically. They were no doubt playing a massive impact to my fertility. My fertility improved dramatically without me trying once I found a place of peace. Once I was more comfortable with a range of emotions, knowing it was okay to feel any emotion. Once I understood where my emotions come from, their thoughts in this moment, nothing makes us feel anything. It's not my childhood I'm feeling. It's not me I'm feeling. It's my thinking about that kind of stuff. The more comfortable I felt in expressing my emotions, life began to flow again. My body began to flow again. So bearing our emotions can be destructive physically, from a fertility point of view, and it can be destructive in a relationship as well. I thought I was being helpful by keeping stum and being the calm, constant one. But actually, I wasn't. It was the complete opposite. Complete opposite. And it happens today at times as well, not just on a fertility journey. When I sometimes get caught into my thinking, it's just so destructive in a relationship, particularly for women who just really want to connect emotionally, understand how you feel, and be understood themselves, which I covered more in the kind of the last webinar. So men may think they're feeling nothing. Men may generally feel, I don't feel anything. I say I felt angry, but I didn't really feel it. I didn't feel it. My wife was going through a grieving process, but I wasn't really feeling it. I thought I should be angry, and I did kind of feel angry, but I found it very hard to kind of express it. And not that I believe you have to kind of weep and wail to let these emotions go, but if we resist it, it buries it, and it becomes destructive. But a man generally may be feeling nothing. He also may be feeling nothing because men and women deal with stress differently. And as we know, this journey can be incredibly stressful. When men get stressed, they seek that nothingness feeling. Men crave nothingness psychologically. That's why they can channel surf. That's why they can just sit and do nothing at times. They can be zoned out, not really paying attention to TV. Can play computer games for hours. Zoning out, it's numbing out. And that's what men tend to do in times of stress. It's their way of dealing with it. Just not feeling it, taking a break from it. But women are the opposite. Women are emotion in this moment. And they're expressing a feeling in this moment, whatever it is. And they want that feeling to be heard. They want to be understood in it. They want their partner to understand how they feel. They want to understand how their partner feels in it. That's how they connect on an emotional level. But often men don't understand that. So often men seek to bury their emotions just through that kind of numbing. Maybe it's even through drink. Sometimes women feel their men are being irresponsible by drinking on this journey. But sometimes it's their way of dealing with it. And they have no other capacity of dealing with the psychological aspects of the journey. No one's taught men to share and feel emotions. Women are more natural at it. Girls do it. It's what's expected of them. It's how women may be. But men just get bombarded with the message that it's a weakness. Big boys don't cry. Men get this message that just to bury your emotion because that's what being strong is about. And I couldn't believe even recently there's a TV presenter in the UK who's struggling with alcohol addiction, and he's checked himself back into rehab. And as a retired boxer, clearly a hard man, I don't know him personally, he's putting complete judgments, but he came out to the press saying that this presenter doesn't need kind of rehab, doesn't need therapy, he just needs to man up. And to be honest, that made me really angry when I hear that. I think it takes more guts to admit you've got a mistake. So you've got a problem and you need help psychologically than just to man up. I think a lot of our problems in this world are caused by men just manning up. And there's a culture that we've created that means men can be quite distant from their emotions. I genuinely did not know what I was feeling. I could not tell you what I was feeling because I couldn't recognize it myself. And it wasn't until I found a sheet of feelings words. It sounds quite primary schoolish, but I could really identify, okay, yeah, that's a feeling, that's how I feel, that's how I feel. Because even in fact, sometimes you say I feel, but what follows it is not a feeling, it's a judgment, it's a thought, it's not actually a feeling. I had to go on a whole journey to really identify my feelings. I used to check in with myself 3 or 4 times a day. I had a kind of alarm on my phone and check in, how am I doing? What's happened over the last couple of hours and how I felt about it? Maybe I was at work, I was in a previous career, and I was in a meeting, I was frustrated by an outcome or something. Or maybe I had to run for my train and I got frustrated or annoyed or scared I'd be late for an important meeting. So I had these experiences, but they were so fleeting. I didn't really acknowledge them. So I get back home the end of the day, my wife would say, "How's your day?" I say, "It was all right." Unless something particularly amazing or special or significant happened, it was just kind of all right. And I felt like a teenager. It's the same thing to my mum after school. My mum would say, how's your day? Oh, it was all right. I wasn't really alive to the moment, acknowledging how I was feeling. I was like, in my head, living in my head, disconnected from my body, disconnected from this experience I was living moment to moment. So it's true that sometimes men don't know what they're feeling. And it's not about, saying, oh, man, yeah, it's okay, so I just don't know, and leave it at that. That's how a man is. It's not about saying, this is just how I am. It's about recognizing, yeah, there are differences between men and women. But if we want a relationship to understand each other, we have to get out our default way of being and try and communicate in the way our partner communicates. Yeah, there needs to be some understanding that the way they're being may not be personal. We can't use it as an excuse that or not making an effort to connect and communicate in a way our partner communicates. I couldn't just say, it's a man, it's how I am. We wouldn't have a relationship in that way. So I wanted to be able to communicate in a way my wife wanted to communicate, so she felt more loved and understood. But also, by my wife understanding this stuff, it helped her understand where I'm at, or why maybe I don't really know, and maybe I do need some more time, or I needed a way of trying to identify and express my emotions. So your man might actually be feeling nothing. Maybe because he's a distant relationship to his emotions. And maybe he does feel uncomfortable with it, or stressed with it, or not sure how to deal with it all. So he's seeking that nothing space. And when men go into that nothing space, they don't like interruptions. Nothing annoys a man more than being in a nothing space. And the woman coming in saying, what's going on here? How are you doing? Oh, it's a bit sparse in this space. You should put some pictures up. You should decorate this space. Not as a physical space. Maybe it is a physical space, the shed or the den. But psychologically, women come in because they want to draw their man out. They want to connect. They're desperate to connect. And men are hiding away in their nothing space. And nothing annoys them more than a woman coming into that space. Likewise, nothing annoys a woman more than seeing a man doing nothing. And then it can create this tension. How do you break it? Well, understanding this could be going on, and it's not personal. Understanding that and recognizing that and committing to each other, or sometimes getting out our default way of being and supporting our partner in the way they connect. So for me, that was a journey of reconnecting to my emotions, being able to articulate my emotions, and being able to be okay with her emotions, which I talked more about on the previous webinar. So about a relationship with emotions, men may be feeling nothing. So men may be feeling responsible. Men may be feeling a sense of fear of losing you. Men may be feeling nothing. They also may be feeling confused. And for me, it was about confusion of how to support my wife, because these differences, I didn't know how to deal with it. And this is not just about the fertility journey, this is in life generally. As you know, men tend to problem solve. Women want to be understood. I've got a very, very quick short video to show at this point, just to illustrate this in quite a comical way, but actually, I think it's kind of hits the nail on the head. So let me just see if I can get this very short video to work.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? We can work it out. We can work.
I hope you enjoyed that, and I just think, excuse the pun, but it's the nail on the head. I think it identifies a couple of traps we often fall in as men and women. One is obviously men trying to fix the problem. And many men can see the perspective in that moment, because when we're caught into our emotions, men or women, well, we don't see perspective. We're just experiencing that emotion, the feeling in the middle, feeling in the moment. And sometimes men can take a step back and see that maybe there's a nail. And likewise, when men are caught into their stuff, someone else, the woman can take a step back. When we're caught into our stuff, we get blinkered views. We don't see the bigger perspective. But when we're caught in it, when women are in their emotion, that's what they're feeling. And sometimes they may, deep down, may know what the problem is, but they don't need help. When I jumped in trying to fix my wife's problems, she feels belittled, the fact that I think she can't fix her own problems, but also she feels not being heard because I'm not really listening to what she's saying. So for men, it's about, as he did, understanding how she felt. And there's a process in the last webinar I talked through in more detail, step by step, how you can do that, how you can really make sure that men are listening for that thing, and how women can make sure it makes it easier for men to hear that thing and be more connected and understood. But just acknowledge men and women are different, particularly when it comes to times of stress and being understood. Another thing in that video briefly came up. She started saying, well, this, my jumpers are snagged, and this, and this. Women are emotion in this moment. If you imagine men's brains are quite ordered, believe it or not. I think a lot of women think their men's brains are quite empty, but there are a lot of shelves, or imagine their houses with a lot of rooms. It's a house with lots of rooms in there. And each of the room had its own purpose. Each room had its own subject area. And men, when they're talking about a subject, are just focusing on that subject. They go into that room, do whatever it is, come out of it. Then go into another room, deal with that subject, that issue, whatever it is, then come out of it. And maybe their nothing room is the basement, their den is their nothing space, just their nothing space. Women's brains are more a jumble of wires with electricity buzzing through them, and every wire is touching another wire. It's all connected. It's all connected. And it's an emotion, it's an energy in this moment. But when they're in that energy, when they're in that emotion, everything's connected to everything. And that's why sometimes men get confused when women are saying about this, and this, and they can't see the logical connection between these things that women are saying, they're sharing about their emotion, and everything comes back to their mother-in-law. It's like, whoa, hang on, how do we get here? Don't try and work it out, because it's not necessarily logical. It's the emotional connections. It's an emotion in that moment. And again, sometimes men get confused about how to support their women through this emotionally because of these differences. Women can get confused why their men are behaving in that way. They feel isn't appropriate or isn't useful or helpful. But it's because of these differences. The more we understand them, the more we can tolerate the differences, understand the differences, but also we can get out the differences and connect in a way that's more useful for our partner. So we've had responsible, we've had fear, we've had nothing, confused. And the last one I want to kind of touch on is inadequacy. If there is male factor fertility, men obviously can feel inadequate as a man, just as a woman can. They can feel inadequate as a woman. Again, men may not kind of articulate this, but they can feel just as inadequate. I know part of me did on our journey when I got the diagnosis, that there was something, I couldn't do some core biological function of kind of reproduction, and that in some way I was less of a man to every other man on the planet. Not that every other man on the planet can do it. But there was something, I don't know, intrinsic to our culture that when we say what it means to be a man, and maybe this virile, what the word is, a highly fertile kind of man. There are friends who they get, their partners get pregnant really, really easily, and they're saying, yeah, it was just one time. They're really proud of the fact that they're so fertile. So again, we create this culture about it can be tough for a man to recognize or acknowledge that maybe they can't. So they may feel inadequate in some way, just in the same way women often feel inadequate when they can't bear children and all the other peers can. Again, it's something biological about, I guess it's one of those core biological things that keeps the planet going. So you may not think it, but your man may be feeling inadequate. He may say he doesn't. I think I didn't often vocalize my emotions because I didn't want to acknowledge it. If I didn't say it out loud, it wasn't maybe really happening. I could get over it, I could ignore it, it would go away. So the whole range of emotions there that your man may be feeling and why it may be different to what you or woman may be feeling. And I hope that's helpful just to give an insight to a man's perspective on this journey. If you've got any questions, just type them in now. Only I can see them. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything I've covered this evening, or the male-female stuff, or the mind and fertility, anything that you want to ask while I'm here. I've got one question that's come in. How can we just feel the feeling, even the negative ones, when we feel that we do not feel them? How can we just feel the feeling, even the negative ones, when we feel that we do not feel them? Great question. How can we feel them if we feel that we're not feeling them? I guess for me, it was an exploration of what might I be feeling. It wasn't, oh, I should be feeling anger. I know anger, I felt I should be feeling angry. I felt I wanted to feel angry. That was that one. I wanted to feel angry, but I couldn't feel the feeling, as it were. I go into the woods with a stick. I wanted to smash sticks against the trees, but I felt I was just kind of, it was there, but it wasn't really genuine, wasn't really coming out. It was toned down. It was contained. And for me, it's about, I may not know I am feeling something or should be feeling something in particular, but we're always feeling something. We're always feeling something 24 hours a day. Often when we sleep, we're unconscious. When we're awake, there's always some kind of emotional state, which may be peace of mind. For me, it was just tuning into that, checking into that. What is that right now? What am I feeling right now? For me, that inquiry, that inquisition helped me connect to these feelings and be more aware of them. So when I was feeling something, I would say, oh, yeah, it's this. Sometimes I could be aware there's an emotion, but I'm not sure what it is. And then my list of feelings word came into play. That was really helpful. In the last webinar, I talked about writing things out helped. I had no idea what I felt. I'd say, just keep the pen moving. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling. And suddenly this emotion came out. I'm feeling angry, really angry. It's just want to hit someone. Whatever it may be, just kind of came out as another way of bypassing those overthinking and tuning to the emotion underneath all that. Yeah, so sometimes we don't know what we're feeling. Sometimes we feel we should be feeling. About we feel that we're kind of feeling it, but not really feeling it, or scared of feeling it, or scared to acknowledge it. But for me, it was about being curious about what I might be feeling. And having that kind of inquisition helped me just explore what may be under all this kind of thinking and tune into that kind of more emotional side of me. I hope that answers the question. Any other questions? After you and your wife had the baby, and you look back at the time when the baby was not there, what do you think was removed or shifted when the baby was in your life now compared to when the baby was not there? Okay, so what do you think was removed or shifted when the baby was in your life compared to when the baby was not there? For me, the shift or the removal, the shift came before the baby came. This is why I talk about Project U lot versus Project Baby. For me, the shift came from knowing I was okay in this moment, almost finding peace in this moment. The shift came from acknowledging I wasn't happy in life and the baby wasn't going to solve it. Acknowledging that I was constantly living, I'll be happy when I have a baby. Before that, I'll be happy when I get married. Before that, I'll be happy when I've got a good career. Before that, I'll be happy. There's always something else going all the way back to childhood. Whereas I'll be happy when my mum thinks good of me, when she's happy, pleased with me and not angry at me. It was shifting that kind of stuff. That happened before the baby. And, you know, they say when you raise a baby, you're almost raising yourself. There's elements of truth in that. There's more personal development kind of came on the back of that, but the biggest shift became before the baby. And for me, in my mind, that allowed the baby to come. So that's why I talk a lot about Project U versus Project Baby. It's our thinking about ourselves and life generally we bring to our fertility journey. And the more we do that kind of journey, the Project U journey, Project Baby takes more care of itself. And that's one of the reasons I'm so thankful for our journey in so many ways. I know it's easy for me to say that because we're out the other side. But I'm so thankful for the things I learned about myself and life and relationships that enable me to be happy in life generally. That enable me to be better, more the father I want to be. I think I'm a better father now, having had these shifts and changes that happened before we had our baby. So I think that's the key thing that comes to me from asking that question. But thank you for asking it. Any other questions? Another question's come in is, what's the one thing I wish I would do differently if I did the journey again when it comes to the difference in men and women? I think the one thing I'd do differently was acknowledging that I had to do something. That nothing wasn't an option. Nothing was going to lead to the breakdown of our relationship. That was the thing. Not burying my head in my sand. I was great at burying my head in the sand. If we talk about something difficult, a difficult subject, we start talking about it and I say, I can't talk about this now. Let's talk about it tomorrow. I can't talk about it now. And I'd avoid the subject. And my wife for years would say that I never came back to it to pick up the subject. I never came back to continue the conversation. It felt uncomfortable. And I was addicted to feeling comfortable. And it felt uncomfortable to acknowledge that maybe there was something I need to look at, something to shift in me to allow us to connect in a different way. So the one thing I do differently is, take action. Also, one thing I do differently is get a test sooner. From a kind of medical side, get a test sooner. Often the focus is on the woman. We assume the man's okay more often than not. If there is a problem with the woman, I always recommend men get a test sooner or later. Sooner than later. But psychologically, the one thing I wish I'd done earlier was get comfortable in feeling uncomfortable and recognize that I need to do something to be more connected to my wife, to open up more emotionally and not just say it's the way I am and think that'll be okay. And avoid the emotions. And what it highlighted was I was avoiding my emotions in life, my happiness in life generally. That I wasn't content in my work and relationship, life. And it wasn't until I accepted that I could do something about it. I just avoided it. So that's the one thing I do differently. Any other questions? Comes in. Just going to pause a little way to see when everyone is typing a question. Any questions that come to mind? It's completely anonymous. No. In that case, I think we should leave it there. I won't drag it on it needs to. I like to make these things shorter so people can watch them and get through them and feel they've been useful. And when I send the email out, or the system will send the email out to the replay link, I should include the link to the previous one for those who missed that. Because the one I leave on saying is actually what I do different. Go back to what I do differently is taking the action and making the effort to connect in a different way. And that's what I want to encourage you to do is do that. And if you haven't seen the previous webinar, watch the replay link, because that goes more the nuts and bolts of how we can do that. Nuts and bolts of a communication process you can use to help sure we are connecting, getting out of our kind of typical maleness or womanness and connecting in a way we can feel understood and feel we can share how we feel and not muddy the water through all sorts of stuff, and make our communication kind of more effective and more uniting, if that makes sense, to feel more understood in it. So if you haven't seen that webinar, I should include that, the replay link in the email that goes out from this, and next maybe it goes out next 24 hours. But thank you for joining, for those who joined live. Thank you for watching, those who watched the replay. If you want to find out more about me, you can Google The Fertile Mind. My website is thefertilemind.net. Feel free to contact me about anything you think I can help you with. So I'm passionate about serving a community we're part of for so long. Or if you want to know more about Fertility Network UK, Google Fertility Network UK, but I should include links in the replay video. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and listening. I look forward to connecting soon.